You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Back in the groove, the Minor League Baseball podcast returns the first week of November. Hello, everyone. My name is Tyler Munn, Sam Dykstra in New York City. Welcome back to me and
you. Welcome back to you. I mean, we had the show last week without you, and I'm sure a lot of people right now are generally excited.
Everybody's like,
that
ugh, he's back.
You started the show and not me, and that there was actual bumper music coming in instead of immediately hearing my voice and wondering what the heck happened. What did you do to Tyler? So you're back, which is good.
I think most people would have been probably pretty excited. Oh, we don't have to listen to that one yelling this whole time. That's good. But hey, we're back to full speed. We're back to 100% capacity here on the MILB.com podcast. The show before the show is the name of this show. And here we are, episode number 184. We're going to hit 200 episodes soon. That's pretty absurd. And we welcome you in. He's Sam Dykstra. I'm Tyler Vaughn. Thanks for joining us wherever you found the podcast at MILB.com/podcast. We're on iTunes. We are on Google Play. We are elsewhere. And we're excited that you joined us. And we're going to talk a whole lot of Arizona Fall League this week. We are through half of the AFL season. We're actually coming up on really the close of the AFL season here in the next couple of weeks, which is kind of crazy. And then we're into the long, dark couple of months in which we have no baseball in the Northern Hemisphere, really, with the exception of the Mexican Pacific Winter League and a couple other leagues. But other than that, not a whole lot going on. You can always watch the Australian Baseball League. You can check out what's going on in the Dominican Republic or in Venezuela. But stateside, we don't have a lot after the conclusion of the AFL. So get your fill in now as we get toward the final couple of weeks of the Arizona Fall League. And with that, we will kick off Three Strikes talking about the AFL on this week's episode of the show before the show. The Fall Stars game is in the books. The showcase game in the Arizona Fall League, formerly called the Rising Stars game, now the Fall Stars, way better name. And the West Division walking off with a 7-6 win over the East Division, thanks in part to this week's guest on the show before the show, Padres number 13 prospect Buddy Reed. That was a heck of a good game. I unfortunately missed it, was out of the country, but a really good game. Watching the highlights and looking back on this one, tight going into the ninth. It was 6-5. Buddy Reed drives a 3-2 fastball for a triple, scores Vlad Guerrero Jr. with the tying run, and then comes home on an amazing bat flip by Mabrys Valoria out of the Kansas City Royals organization. But a really good game between those two sides, and congrats to the West for a victory in the Fall Stars game.
Yeah, and if anybody listened to the podcast last week, which I hope you did, I shouldn't phrase it that way, if you listened, as you all did listen last week to our interview with Kansas City Royals prospect Khalil Lee, there was a little bit on the line there. There was $500 to the winning players on the West team. So I think Buddy Reed brought that up in his post-game comments of saying, like, I wanted to get us that $500. And beyond that, it was just fun to see those guys actually care about this game. $500 on the line, you can buy a PS4 or something like that with that money. But they all cared about it, that for being, obviously a league in which you're playing with a bunch of players who are not in your organization, but now being mixed even more so and playing with more guys who you have even less experience with, coming together, for one game and to enjoy each other that much. I'm sure that's something we'll be talking about with some of these guys years down the line. They'll say like, oh yeah, last time I saw him was the Fall Stars game, something like that. So to see it be as fun a game and not be like a 10-2 drubbing or something like that, see it come down to the wire was really, really fun to watch live.
Fall Stars game is it's such a good opportunity for these guys to put themselves on the map in the AFL, which you can do, outside of the scope of the Fall Stars game, but the fact that it's on MLB Network Radio, it's on MLB Network TV, and you kind of get the hardcore baseball people beyond just the people who are reading stories and following the AFL closely. And if you're a fan, who's flipping around and you're enough of a baseball fan that you'll sit down and watch the Fall Stars game, you're going to learn some names that maybe you hadn't learned before. And Buddy Reed, we're going to talk more about Buddy Reed, and we're going to talk to Buddy Reed coming up in this episode. But he's a guy who has really firmly established himself, not just in the AFL, but really the entirety of this season in the Padres organization, and a terrific game for him, a terrific fall season for him so far. And we'll discuss more about him as the show rolls along today. But he is one of the guys featured in Strike 2. Sam's got a Toolshed column up this week about some of the AFL's prospects who have really started to turn things around, whether it was a slow season that led them into the AFL, or even just in Buddy Reed's case, he was coming off of a good year, but has really sort of asserted himself in his prospect status. Guys who have really taken that next leap in their prospect routes, and in the AFL, it's a very challenging environment in which to do that. But Sam, take us through this week's Toolshed on some of the stars breaking out in the AFL.
Yeah, so the scope of this was basically, we're coming into the Arizona Fall League with kind of preconceived notions about a lot of these guys. They just played, for most of them, in most of their cases, a full 2018 season. For most players, that means their season ends, and we take whatever those notions are, we carry them through the offseason. We develop questions about what are they going to do? How are they going to turn this around? Or are they going to be able to reproduce this? We carry that into 2019, and we don't get answers until next spring. The Fall League provides an opportunity for some of these guys to kind of flip those scripts. Take somebody like Buddy Reed, who we'll talk to later, about his time at AA San Antonio, where he really stalled out, was a below the Mendoza line hitter. Going into next year, we would have thought, okay, is that the type of hitter? Not is he going to be basically a 30 hitter going up, further into the Padres system, but is his hit tool lower than we expected, lower than what we saw out of Lake Elsinore? Now he's been able to kind of flip that script. He's hitting over 300 in the Fall League, been one of the better hitters there, flashing all his tools on that stage, showing that he can do this late into a season. So now we don't have as many questions about him as we did about how his bat would handle upper level pitching. One other guy I want to talk about a little bit more extensively, though, is somebody else from the NL West in Melvin Adon at the San Francisco Giants system. Adon, he's the number 19 prospect in that system. A big reason for that is he is a hard thrower, but he has struggled with control. He's one of those typical types, 6'3", can hit triple digits, as he did over the weekend in the Fall Stars game. Had one of the cooler at bats, or whatever you want to call that, from a pitcher standpoint, against Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in that he was throwing hard. He was throwing close to triple digits, if not triple digits, against Vlad, one of the tougher hitters to strike out in the Fall League this season. And then he got him with a crazy good slider away that just froze Vlad. And there's not too many times where you have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. just walking back to the dugout looking like he's almost scratching his head. That's something Adon was doing. And that's something a little bit more indicative of what he's been able to do in the Fall League. This year, during the regular season, he was a starter. The Giants keep trying him in that role because, in the lower levels, you can afford to do that. If a guy's going to throw hard, you want to see if he can do that for 6 or 7 innings. But he has struggled to kind of keep that consistency, make it work as a starter. This year, he had a 4.87 ERA in 77 2/3 innings with Class A advanced San Jose, 1.49 whip, 34 walks in those 77 2/3 innings. So again, some control issues. That works out into command issues as well when you're trying to be too fine. Sometimes you get a little too hittable. But he's been working as a reliever exclusively in the Fall League. He's made 7 appearances for Scottsdale, and he has the lowest whip of any qualified AFL pitcher right now. He's only given up 3 hits and 2 walks over 9 2/3 innings. And because he's pitching in shorter stints, his stuff's playing up a little bit, as it did in that at-bat against Vlad. And he struck out 19 batters in those 9 2/3 innings. So all he needs really is to show a plus fastball, is to show a good slider. And I think the way he's handling this right now, if I'm the Giants, I just give up on any idea of him being a starter. Start grooming him as a reliever next spring. Right now, part of that is there's only so many starting spots in the AFL, obviously. He's kind of been pushed into a relief role. But if he's going to be this good against this many top prospects, he's ready to do a relief role. He could move quickly through San Francisco, or to San Francisco by the end of next year, maybe the middle of next year, because his stuff is going to play in shorter stints right away. So that's not something I thought about Melvin Adon coming in. It was going to be like, okay, can he throw strikes? We'll see how that works. He's been able to do that. He's been able to show some really good breaking stuff on top of the velocity. And now I wouldn't be surprised if he not only climbs the prospect ranks next year, but also the actual ranks of the San Francisco system and becomes a fixture of the Giants bullpen for a couple of years to come.
Strike three this week. We are into the offseason in terms of Major League Baseball's free agent landscape and how teams are going to look going into 2019. And we've got sort of the appetizer to the main course that is the winter meetings this week with the general manager meetings, which are taking place in Carlsbad, California. I don't think we're going to get a ton of answers out of the GM meetings, but it seems like the landscape is somewhat laid during the GM meetings of what the hot stove is going to look like, what the free agent landscape and what the trade landscape is going to look like. When you look at how this goes into December, Sam, and beyond into spring training for next year, what systems do you think could change the most from trades going into next year? Obviously, there's so much focus on Bryce Harper and Manny Machado and what money the free agents are going to get, but trades are what reshape minor league systems. What is going to be reshaped this offseason, and how could the GM meetings lead us into that?
Yeah, so there are three systems I want to touch on real fast that I think could, 3/4. One of them changes two different systems based on some of the rumors we're hearing going into the GM meetings. And, we don't have answers on this. And like you mentioned, Tyler, we might not get answers until the winter meetings, or if we have a winter meetings like last year, it might not be until a couple of weeks after that. But just looking at some of the rumors that are piling up this week right now as we stand, the four I'm looking at are right now, the Miami Marlins could be trading JT Realmuto. His agent seems to think he's going to be in a different uniform coming opening day. If the Marlins aren't going to compete next year, and by all indications, they're going to continue their rebuild process, trading Realmuto, I think, is in everyone's best interest. Get him to a team that can definitely use him. He's by far and away the best catcher in Major League Baseball right now. He still has plenty of surplus value. They could get some really good pieces back for him right now. So the Marlins system, as things stand right now, do not have a top 100 prospect. They signed the Victor's Mesa, coming out of Cuba. So that certainly helps things. But Monte Harrison has dropped out of the top 100. Sandy Alcantara is not quite there. Nick Neidert's kind of on that line as well. So they don't have that top talent that you need for a rebuild. Trading Realmuto could get them that. Now, the team that is being most heavily rumored right now to be involved in that mix are the Atlanta Braves, who, as we know, have chips to trade. Now, what would they give away for somebody like Realmuto? We'll have to see. You can almost bet that if they were to make that type of trade, a top pitcher is going to be involved. Mike Soroka, Kyle Wright, Ian Anderson, Touki Toussaint, Luis Gohara. These are all top 100 types. Bryce Wilson, Kobe Allard, again, all top 100 types that are arms within that system, all of whom would become the top pitching prospect in the Marlins system if a trade were to happen there. It's going to take multiple pieces to bring back Realmuto, so you're not just going to flip him for Mike Soroka one-on-one. It's going to take more than that. You would probably have to throw in somebody like an Austin Riley, a Christian Pache, or a Drew Waters, or some more prospects further down the list. But the Braves definitely have the pieces to make this work. And if we're talking about them, being arrived on the scene and not having to worry about stockpiling prospects anymore, this is a time to kind of cash them in and bring a piece back that, like I said, Realmuto is the best catcher in baseball, would be a definite improvement for them behind the plate. So we'll have to see how that shakes out.
You also sort of get the feeling, too, that because it's an in-division trade, the price tag goes up a little bit, don't you? I mean, if the Marlins were going to be making this deal with the San Francisco Giants or somebody like that, Giants probably not a very good example because the system isn't very strong, but you would think trading in the division, they're going to need more from the Braves than they are to ship him somewhere else.
You would think that, but also, if the Braves are offering the best package, I would just take it at this point if I'm the Marlins. Like, don't get finicky over, because we're going to see Realmuto 18 times a year.
Right.
It's going to cost you one more top 100 prospect, because that's how deals fall apart. And then all of a sudden you're taking the second best package. So I get that. And I think that's kind of like an older way of thinking. But if you're definitely in rebuild mode, just take what the best offer is on the table if it meets your threshold. And the Braves definitely have the opportunity to do that. So if they're willing to go that far, if I'm the Marlins, I take whatever the Braves are willing to give and kind of run with it and start to build that foundation of that system. Two other ones I'll touch on real quick. The Cleveland Indians, almost inexplicably, I get it, the financials might not be working up for their owners, but this is a team that was in the World Series 2 years ago, just won its division this year. Just needs to add a little bit, needs to fill out its outfield, and I think it could be right back there with the Astros and the Red Sox and the Yankees for American League contenders. But rumors are persisting that they might start looking at trading some of their pieces, not named Jose Ramirez and Francisco Lindor. A little bit of a head scratcher for me, but if they are to trade somebody like Corey Kluber or Carlos Carrasco, you look at the state of the Indian system right now. It's not as strong, obviously, as it once was. Right now, Tristan McKenzie is the top 100 prospect for them. Nolan Jones also in that mix, and then it really falls off from there. So they could build out that system a little bit if they were to trade some of their really top-end arms. Do they need to do that? I don't really necessarily agree with that because it is a good team as it is currently situated. They just need to add to it, just spend a little bit more money, and I think they're right back in it. So I hope that doesn't happen from that aspect, but this is an Indians farm system that could use a little puffing out itself. So we'll see if that happens. Another one kind of in a similar boat, the Seattle Mariners, reports are coming out that they might not necessarily strip it to the studs. Jerry Dipoto has come out explicitly and said that's not going to happen. But they know they have some assets. They can't quite get there in the AL West to catch up to the Astros, and they weren't able to secure a wild card spot this year. So what are they going to do? Maybe they start a little bit of a rebuild, see what they can get from Mike Zunino, James Paxton, maybe even Edwin Diaz, which would be fascinating. But as we've discussed before, the Mariners system is definitely at a down time right now. A lot of that has to do with some of the trades Jerry Dipoto made. Luis Gohara, if he's still in that system, he's their top prospect easily, but he got traded to the Braves. So I like Evan White. I like Kyle Lewis when he's healthy, but this Mariners system could definitely need help because if they're looking to break through that gap in the AL West or in the wild card races, it's probably not going to come internally. So they need to start looking at some of these deals. If they were to trade somebody like Paxton or Diaz, definitely the system would jump up a little bit. They would definitely get some big names back for either of those two guys. So we'll be keeping an eye on that between the GM meetings here and all the weeks to come all the way through the offseason because as last year showed, there is no arbitrary date where everybody's going to look to get their business done by. That some of this stuff could carry on well into the spring.
So that'll do it for Three Strikes on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. And coming up, the AFL discussion continues. We're going to head to the Peoria Javelinas and the 13th ranked prospect in the San Diego Padres organization, Buddy Reed, who joins us to talk about his breakout 2018 at Class A Advanced, his breakout 2018 in the Arizona Fall League, and some time on the ice as well. Buddy Reed's got a very interesting sports background, and we'll talk with the 13th ranked prospect in the Padres organization coming up next. We are headed to the Arizona Fall League this week on the latest episode of the Show Before the Show podcast from MILB.com. And there we find the 13th ranked prospect in the San Diego Padres organization, outfielder Buddy Reed, who has just been tearing things up for the Peoria Javelinas in the AFL so far this offseason. And Buddy, welcome to the show, man. How are things down there?
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. Things are fun. It's cooler, obviously, compared to June and July, but no, it's a lot of fun being around these guys, some of the top prospects in every organization and hanging out with them and building relationships, having a good time.
Well, take us through this experience so far. It's been 13 games. You're slashing 365, 421, 481. You're the AFL Fall Stars game MVP. You get to play in your home spring training complex, which is pretty cool. It's kind of a different thing. A lot of guys who don't get that experience, who are in the Grapefruit League for spring training, get to come over. And you guys being the host team sometimes, in your case, the Padres and Mariners at your facility, it's got to be kind of a cool aspect of it. But just walk us through, what it's been like. It's been 13 games for you, so a little bit limited, I guess, over the first month in terms of daily play, but just this whole competition and being down there and the success that you've had. Take us through it.
Well, I've come here with an open mind. I'm struggling a little bit in Double A. I just wanted to come out here, refine my approach, and at the same time have fun. that's what this game is about, and I feel like I've done that as well. Like you said, playing here out in Peoria at our home spring training facility is awesome. I'm on the Mariners side right now because we split. So being around those guys from the Mariners side is really cool just because I know I'll see them during spring training. And then, of course, just being around our Padres players is fun. I'm living with Austin Allen, and we're having a good time over here, working hard on and off the field in the weight room, and then just getting our bodies and our minds right to play every day. Even though I don't play every day, I still have to pay attention to the game and lock in just because I may be facing these pitchers now at a different date or later in the future in the big leagues.
One of the things you mentioned, you get to establish all these relationships with guys who are teammates and guys who you're seeing on the other side and all that, and getting to learn from players who maybe you haven't encountered so far in your career or bounce things off of each other. What's that experience been like, being in an organization or in a team with players from so many different organizations? It's kind of a melting pot of ideas. How has that been to get a chance to be able to sort of immerse yourself in the collection of personalities and thoughts and the intellects of guys who are around you on your roster and on other ones?
It's actually really cool. Playing in the Fall Stars game, I got to meet guys from other organizations, obviously, but I got to talk to them about what they look for in pitchers, whether it's pitchers tipping pitches or what they look for to start in that bat, how they work the counts, whether they're aggressive, not aggressive, they like taking the first pitch, or they like to wait to get to 2 strikes and work deeper in the count. And it's really cool to see. Everybody's a little different. And I like talking to the guys that have a good idea of what they're doing, and the guys that have come here as well to work on their approach and refine their approach, whether it's trying to draw more walks or see more pitches and things like that. And definitely like playing in the Fall Stars game and then talking to Vlad about hitting for being a 19-year-old, and he knows so much, and I can just pick off so many ideas from him and use those as I go along in my career.
I'm glad you brought up the Fall Stars game. That's a big reason why we wanted to have you on this week. One thing I wanted to ask you about specifically was that at-bat that got you the MVP award, your game-tying triple in the 9th inning against Justin Lawrence, somebody you saw from your Cal League days. He threw you a 98-mile-an-hour fastball low and away. You managed to punch it basically all the way to the wall in left center, speed around to third base. One of the things going into that at bat too, even the broadcast was noting when I was watching, is how much you were choking up going on there. How much of that was based on your prior knowledge of Lawrence, and how much of that was like the day-to-day adjustments you are working on in the fall league?
Well, I've always been a big believer in trying to put the bat on the ball as much as you can. Choking up is something I've been doing this whole year, and I pretty much started it this whole year. It's just a comfort thing for me. And then facing Justin Lawrence in the Cal League, like you said, whenever he'd come in the game, I would choke up maybe 5 inches on my bat, just because it's kind of one of those guys as a hitter where you're just a little uncomfortable, and you're going to do whatever you can to put the bat on the ball. And so that's pretty much what I did. I got into my 2-strike approach, and I just wanted to put a good swing on it. Obviously, stay choked up and not try to do too much, especially from a guy who throws sidearm, who has a lot of run and sink on his ball. He's probably one of the toughest pitchers I've ever faced so far in my pro ball career. And I just wanted to put a good swing on it. I managed to do so, and I got to third base.
One of the other things you talked about playing in that game was just how much fun it was, and playing with new guys, not just different organizations, but guys you're not even playing with in the fall league, and the emotion, the way it poured out of you, and literally poured out of the dugout as well. Mm-hmm. You did a celebration that, can you kind of describe it? Because Vlad did one that looked like he was shooting an arrow. You looked like one that was like lobbing a grenade or something. How much were you guys talking about what you were going to do for celebrations before the game amongst guys, like I said, you hadn't really played with before?
Yeah, I guess the celebration was the bow and arrow. I mean, I was so hyped I didn't even know necessarily if I should pull the bow out of my back, I guess, and then shoot it. So that was just a shorter, quicker version of me shooting the bow and arrow, I guess, to the sky, to the dugout, just to all the guys that were cheering me on over there on the first base side.
Gotcha. And you've gone through sort of an experience like this before in terms of playing with playing with new teammates, playing with different organizations, being that you played this year at the Futures game in DC. How did this experience compare to that? I feel like DC, you have to fly in. It's a big event. It's part of All-Star Weekend. This is just almost like another glorified Fall League game in which there's a lot of top talent on the field at one time. But how do you compare those two experiences?
Well, for me, both were huge honors. Being selected to go to any All-Star game is an honor. The Futures game was, I guess, top tier for me, one of the biggest moments of my life. And then even coming to the All-Star game is just another big moment in my life just because I'm being recognized as one of the best prospects in minor league baseball, as well as being able to play with the other best prospects in all of the minor leagues. So like I said, it was a huge honor. And they were both fun, to be honest with you. I mean, it's an all-star game, so that's what it's about. It's about having fun. It's about obviously trying to win and competing at the highest level with the best guys. And you can see it from both all-star games. The pitching was, unbelievable. Everybody's throwing mid to upper 90s, obviously touching 100, 103, 104, like Nate Pearson. And then the Justin Lawrence throwing 98 to 101. And then just there's all the names of the guys that are throwing hard, and then even the guys that are hitting it, like Pete coming up in the first inning, hitting a home run off 103, Vlad hitting a ball 117 miles an hour. Just being with these groups of guys, it just shows you how much talent there is in the minors, and that all of us are coming up, and we're so close to becoming major leaguers.
Buddy, let's talk defensively. You have played all three outfield spots. I know primarily when you were in Lake Elsinore this year, got a lot of work in the corners, especially in left field. And then you go to San Antonio, you get a ton of work in center field. And now in the AFL, you're kind of moving all over the place, right, center, and left. Do you have a preference on where you play, whether it's in a corner or in center? And if so, I mean, how do you like each spot, and how do you tailor your game playing in each spot?
Yeah, it's all a little different. To be honest, I don't really care. As long as I'm in the lineup, I'll do whatever it takes for the team to win and give the team the best opportunity to win. So, I mean, left field is fun. Center field is obviously fun. I like tracking balls down. I get a better view of obviously the whole field. And then I guess you say you put the guy with the strongest arm in right field, right? So I like playing all three. Obviously, each position requires something different. Left field is the position where I think a lot of balls are hit more than I'd say right. And then center field, I get to command both left and right fielders depending on the hitter and then their swing. And then right field is just kind of, looking to throw guys out from time to time. So I like all three positions wherever the Padres or any other team would want to put me. As long as I get to play and do what I can for the team, I'll play there.
Buddy, let's talk about one of your previous offseason stints. You get your start in pro ball 2016. You go to Tri-City to get things rolling out of the gate after the draft. And you get some time in the Australian Baseball League over the 2017-2018 offseason. So this year you're in Arizona. Last year you were in Australia. And you go down there, you go to Canberra, you play 31 games. Canberra, a really cool atmosphere. They got a ballpark that continues to expand, and people there have really embraced that team. But you're so far from home. You're adjusting to play in such a different style of play. The travel's kind of crazy, but it seems like you really discovered a lot about yourself there as a ball player, and you hit 326, you put up a 1022 OPS. Take us through that process and what that did to get you ready for 2018 by going down and having that experience last year.
Yeah, once again, it was kind of an open-minded thing. At first, I was like, oh, man, going to Australia, it's far away, it's tough, I want to be with my family. And then it got to a point where baseball is my life, it's my career, it's my passion. I love the game, and whatever it takes to get to the major leagues is what I'm going to do. So going there, it was definitely a unique experience. I got to play for Mike Collins, who was once part of the Padres organization as a coach. And the biggest thing for me was working on my approach, limiting strikeouts, and just putting good at-bats together and focusing on hitting the ball harder. I went there. Like you said, I had a really good 31 games, and I really did find myself as a man, as a person on the baseball field. I got to steal more bases. I got to use my speed, And in the outfield, I got to get better reads and work on my defense. And I think with all that and the help of all the coaches over there and even the players and my teammates, I put together a really good winter ball season. And then I took that into spring training and then this past year, and it all goes to shout out to all the guys that have helped me and supported me, and just all the positivity I've received from my family, my friends, and then the coaches and the guys that want to get me better.
Yeah, and you take that and you go forward, like you said, into Lake Elsinore. That works out into like we talked about before, the Futures Game appearance, a really strong opening season. It was really cool to see you carry that momentum from Australia to the Cal League. You mentioned before, though, AA San Antonio, things kind of stalled out. You hit 179 in 43 games there. The speed was certainly there. You had 18 steals. But what did you take away from that Texas League experience? I mean, that's AA baseball. You're two levels away. It's one of the tougher jumps in the minors for sure. But what did you learn about yourself and what adjustments you needed to make based on your time in San Antonio?
Yeah, the biggest adjustment was I guess the pitching. The guys they know how to pitch a little better. They can make balls look like strikes and things like that. And strikes look like balls. So for me, it was just to believe in myself and never doubt myself. I did have a little mental fatigue, coming off of playing a lot of baseball, as well as, excuse me, I lost a little bit of my barrel. I lost my timing. I lost a little bit of just knowing where my bat was. And so, like I said, the biggest thing for me was not giving up on myself, not quitting, showing up to work every day with the same goal in mind, is to get better. And then obviously there were streaks where I would do well. And so I think being consistent and having the right plan every day is what's going to separate me from other guys, and that's going to get me to the big leagues. I did learn a lot from going to AA and then not having success, is that things like that will happen. It's not always going to be right away, and you do have to trust the process, like everyone says. And also staying positive, it will separate a lot of guys from the guys that aren't, because if you're not positive, then how do you expect to attract and have positive things come to you and happen to you? So those are some of the things I learned going up to AA.
Yeah, and taking those and putting them into the fall league, and as Tyler mentioned, your numbers have been really solid there. Where is your mindset now? Do you feel like this pays off, and that positive mindset you talked about, carrying that to the fall league, now seeing the results that you have, are you in a different mindset now than you were, early September when you were ending your time with the Missions, or do you feel like this is just a continuation of what you were doing there at the tail end of the Texas League?
It could be a combination of both. I feel like I did need a little bit of a break. Those 3 weeks definitely made me and let me clear my mind from baseball and focus on just seeing family, being with family, talking to friends and things like that. But then coming here, I did have a game plan to come out here and prove to myself that I could still do what I did in Lake Elsinore, and that I guess just for me, it wasn't a fluke. It was all the hard work that I put in. And so here is just, I guess, more proof to myself that I can do it, and with the right mindset and positivity, and then surrounding myself with people that believe in me and want to get me better, I can be an elite baseball player in the minors and then eventually work my way up to the major league levels and be a long-time major league player.
And one last one I want to bring up is just kind of going back to biographical stuff. Your MILB.com page lists your birthplace is Bronx, New York. Looking into you a little bit, I know you eventually moved to Maryland. Your Florida baseball page talks to you going to high school in Rhode Island. I know Peter Gammons loves talking about you playing hockey growing up and all that. But how much were you moving around, and how much in having kind of a diverse background, both in sports and just seeing different parts of the country? How do you feel like that helped you going into college and eventually pro ball?
Well, I was never really home growing up playing hockey. I would travel to Canada all the time. I had to miss a lot of school because, my parents wanted me to be active more than be in a classroom. They do value education, but at the time, my goal was to be a professional NHL hockey player. So I would like I said, go to Canada, go to Detroit, Chicago, all the places where hockey was big. And then traveling through schools, going to Rhode Island for 3 years of high school, but also switching to schools from 8th grade to 9th grade, and then playing a bunch of different sports. I feel like it didn't limit me just to playing baseball. I didn't really peak at like a young age or peak at, I'd say like in high school. Because you see some guys that play baseball year round, it's like all they know. And I don't know necessarily like stats wise, but you see guys that play baseball and all they know is baseball. They're the pitcher, shortstop. I mean, I feel like they would get fatigued in a sense. And me playing all these other different sports, I didn't have to just focus on baseball, and I wouldn't have to have like my parents just keep pushing baseball. I could play baseball, I could play soccer, football, basketball, things like that. And I feel like doing all those activities that use different parts of your body got me to where I'm at today, just being so athletic and using my athletic ability to play baseball.
All right, buddy, then we got to ask you this. There's kind of a strange baseball history of guys who went on to play some great baseball in their major league careers and could have done big things in hockey. Tom Glavine was an NHL draft selection back in 1984. To a much lesser extent, one of my favorite ball players of all time, Larry Walker, I think was cut by like pretty much every hockey team he ever played on, and yet he still maintains to this day that he was a better hockey player than he was a baseball player. How far would you have gone? Had you focused just on hockey, how far do you think you could have made it?
I think I could have made it to the NHL. Man. I had some D1 colleges looking at me in Rhode Island and D3 colleges. So, and obviously there was always the NHL draft. I don't know if I would have ever gotten drafted right out of high school, but I think I could definitely have played in the NHL.
That is pretty amazing. What was your best skill as a hockey player?
Stick handling and shooting.
Okay.
And then getting and hitting, going down in the boards and getting the puck and try to assist my teammates.
That's interesting. I would have thought you would have said speed, but you think it was more of the stick handling stuff?
Of course, yeah. I mean, yeah, I was fast, but I would always try to be kind of like the skill player.
How much? It's kind of an interesting crossover because your run tool as a baseball player is your highest graded according to MLB Pipeline at 70 on the scouting scale. How do you think that speed translates? I mean, speed on skates is so much different than just speed, on a break where you're trying to get that quick first step, stealing a base or doing something like that. How do you think? What's the biggest difference between being able to be a fast skater and being able to be fast as a baseball player?
Shoot, that's a tough question. I mean, I feel like if you're fast on land, you could be fast on the ice kind of thing. But at the same time, yeah, I know guys that are fast on land, like running, and that aren't fast. So I feel like it's God-given. You can always improve your form. And I think hockey's like you see these speed skaters. If you put a speed skater next to a normal hockey player, the speed skater would most likely win just because of their form and how efficient their form is. But at the same time, I guess hockey, we're so aggressive with the way we attack the ice and like push off and stuff like that, where some guys that run fast do skate fast. So I guess it all depends. But for me, I mean, I've always been fast on land, so I guess it has translated straight to the ice.
Very cool. All right, buddy, last thing for you. You may not have to actually encounter this in your career, depending on how things go in spring training. You may just end up as a Chihuahua, but there's a chance you go back to Double-A to start next season, and this is not official yet, but the indications are Amarillo's team could be called the Sod Poodles. How excited are you to be possibly a Sod Poodle?
Well, I looked it up, and I guess someone told me that the Sod Poodle is like Lassie from, what was it, that movie?
Okay.
The dog.
I always thought it was a prairie dog.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea, but
you'll find out very quickly, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll find out sooner or later, but like I like the poodle part. I don't know about the sod, but I like the poodle.
There you go.
That works out. Buddy Reed is on Twitter. The 13th ranked San Diego Padres prospect is at BuddyLoco23. And, Buddy, we can't thank you enough for the time, man. Congrats on all the success in the AFL. And we'll be watching as we get closer to 2019. Best of luck.
Thank you guys so much, and God bless.
Well, we mentioned to Buddy Reed, and it is unconfirmed, and we are not certain, but Amarillo's new name could be the Sod Poodles. That was one of the possibilities out for the new AA team headed to Amarillo, Texas. We have a new Class A advanced team that is headed to Fayetteville, North Carolina in 2019, and that team does have a name, and we bring in Benjamin Hill to discuss it. Hello, Ben.
Hello, Tyler. Nice to have you back. Back on American, I was going to say American shores, but you're not even close to a shore. Back, it's good to have you back in the U.S.
Thanks,
but also, man. It's good when you travel because I'm sure your life was enriched by that.
It was pretty great. I'm enclosed within the shores. It's kind of the same. Although I was South American shores, so it was kind of the same there. Anyway, doesn't matter. Neither here nor there. But let's talk. The Fayetteville team that is moving from Bowie's Creek. The Bowie's Creek Astros are no more. The Class A advanced affiliate of the Houston Astros is headed to Fayetteville, North Carolina next year, where they will become the Fayetteville Woodpeckers, who are the second Wood-named team in the Carolina League after the Down East Wood Ducks. But the Woodpeckers announced their name on November 4th, and Fayetteville, North Carolina's new team has an identity now. Give us the rundown of this one.
Yeah, the Fayetteville Woodpeckers. This franchise, as you mentioned, spent the last 2 years in Bowie's Creek, playing at Campbell University. That was always a stopgap solution. That was certainly not a long-term minor league environment, but it worked out. The franchise itself is the result of the 2 years ago, or closer to 3 at this point, of the California League contracting and losing the High Desert and Bakersfield, and then 2 teams being added to the Carolina League. One of those teams is the Down East Wood Ducks, and now the other team, after 2 years in Bowie's Creek, is the other Wood team, the Woodpeckers, the Fayetteville Woodpeckers, and they have a stadium under construction right now, which is on track to open in 2019. There is a 14-game road trip to start the season, which is always a good idea when you're building a new stadium because you don't know what you're going to run into with that.
As we've learned so many times.
Yeah, as we've learned again and again. So 14 games, hopefully that's enough, and hopefully they don't need that cushion at all. But it is the Fayetteville Woodpeckers, and I, of course, did my typical story on MILB.com in conjunction with the unveil, which happened this past Sunday. Been known for a long time. It was either going to be woodpeckers or fatbacks, and of course it ended up being woodpeckers. And of course, when you talk to the team and read the press releases and write an article like I do, you get the background on it. There is the kind of very typical in minor league baseball. Woodpeckers are strong and resilient and representative of the community, just like Fayetteville. That works, but that's a little generic at this point in minor league baseball. To me, the more specific connection and the one that's more interesting is, Fayetteville is the home of Fort Bragg, the largest military installation in the country. And in Fort Bragg, there is the largest population of red-cockaded woodpeckers in the country. And part of the reason the population is so strong is because about 2 decades ago, when the red-cockaded woodpecker was named an endangered species, Fort Bragg actually had to accommodate that, change their training exercises so that they didn't infringe upon woodpecker habitat. It was very controversial at the time, and I think going back to when that was happening, woodpeckers were none too popular in Fort Bragg for the fact that it kind of disrupted their operations. But here we are in 2018. Everyone loves the woodpeckers, and especially in Fayetteville, the red-cockaded woodpeckers, and that's why they're the Fayetteville Woodpeckers. And in the logo, that is, technically a red-cockaded woodpecker, and it's looking strong, resolute, staring into the distance, ready to defend against all comers, just like our nation's military, Sam.
Yes, of course. But he's kind of taken a bite, not a bite, a couple pecks out of his bat.
At his own bat, which displays remarkably poor impulse control. But we're have to excuse him for that. I mean, it's tough to be a baseball playing woodpecker because you're holding wood all the time. And, how could you not? I'm trying to think of a good example. And I'll come up with one later, and then you can edit it in.
24 hours later, a new podcast episode will go in that it has a joke inserted here. But so how much of this color scheme was really just based on what the local woodpecker looks like, the red-cockaded woodpecker? Because they're coming from the Astros. They're being the Bowie's Creek Astros, which very much looked like Astros uniforms, the orange, the blue, the whites, whatever. And they're moving to Fayetteville, this whole new color scheme that seems to be driven by the species and not so much like baseball connections.
Yeah, I was a little, maybe mildly surprised that because this team is not just an Astros affiliate, but owned by the Astros, that maybe there would be something more distinct to signify that connection. The logos were actually done in-house by the Houston Astros.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, and I think Brandios had been involved earlier in the process, maybe with the kind of laying out the parameters of the name of the team contest and everything, but they ended up not working on the logos. And it was done in-house, and they went with the red, black, and white. I think they were going for, one, to match the colors of the woodpecker in question, the red cockaded, and also because Fayetteville is so strongly tied in with the military. I did think they wanted something fairly conservative, or at least conservative by today's minor league baseball standards, something that looked kind of a little bit more strong and minimal and more palatable to people who maybe don't have a larger sense of what the minor league baseball landscape looks like right now. So, Woodpeckers is not by any stretch, a Syracuse Mets type of conservative name, but it is, when we're talking about the trash pandas last week, Woodpeckers is a comparative return to normalcy.
There was a tweet from the Carolina Mudcats suggesting to their division rivals, the Winston-Salem Dash and the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, that they should just all change their names to something wood inclusive. So the Wood Dash and the Wood Mudcats and the Wood Pelicans, which would, complete the Southern Division all across one consistent theme. Seems like a smart enough idea. There has to be some sort of rivalry trophy created out of wood for the Woodpeckers and the Wood Ducks now, though. Like, that's pretty obvious. And actually, when we tweeted out the story, immediately Down East responded with a gif of Joey Gallo looking very confused as to how the name in the same division could be that similar. So maybe it's a little bit of fire on the maybe it lights the wood on fire for those two teams. I'm sorry for the joke. But, maybe it adds a little spice to this Carolina League matchup between Fayetteville and Down East.
Maybe it will.
All right. Coming up in a few days, the team in Amarillo will unveil its name. Colorado Springs, apparently that club will be unveiling its name as well pretty soon. A team that will now be part of the Pioneer League with the move from Helena, as the AAA team from Colorado Springs has moved down to San Antonio. So still some names to be unveiled coming up this offseason. Last year felt like it was a pretty quiet one, so this year we've got a lot to talk about on the rebranding front. Be discussing those as the offseason rolls along. The series of Ben's Best continued this past week with a look at the best mascots in minor league baseball. Ben rolling through the best ballparks and some of his favorite things from across the minors. And this time around, went through every level and named the best mascots. Give us the rundown of these best six in the minors.
Yeah, this was a tough one. This whole series has been tough for me, as I've said before, because when you visited every park, it is tough to pick favorites, and it is obviously pretty subjective, no matter who you are, whether you're me, you, even Sam, you're going to have your own opinion, be a part of it. And mascots I particularly struggled with because, one, I love them all. And two, it's like, you're looking at the costumes and just the creativity, the actual entity, which I think goes a long way. But then you're also thinking, what about the mascots that perform very strongly? Obviously, that's a huge part of a successful mascot. And I can't say my criteria was like super strict, but I just had to go with my gut and my feel. So I think it's a diverse mix of anything else. In AAA, you have Fresno, a Bear, who's been a huge part of their operation for a long time. AA, San Antonio is moving to AAA, but I put them in AA because that's what they had been, and had to go with Ballapeno and particularly Henry the Puffy Taco, who's just one of the most truly bizarre mascots and like a real cult icon in San Antonio.
I still don't know where his face is or her face.
Yeah,
well, I guess Henry's the point.
Yeah, the face is like a shroud of lettuce. It's a very strange thing. And that name, there's a restaurant, Henry's a Puffy Taco is a soft shell, a corn tortilla taco put in a deep fryer. So it's a kind of unique spin on a traditional taco. And there's a restaurant called Henry's Puffy Tacos in San Antonio. So the mascot originally came about due to a partnership between the team and this specific restaurant. But I think through the years, it's kind of transcended just to become Henry the Puffy Taco, no matter where you go. Class A Advanced, by the way, with Class A Advanced, I realized that there's more of my favorite mascots clustered in that level than anywhere else. I went with the Modesto Nuts just because they are so visually striking. Wally Walnut, Al Almond, and then a few years ago, Shelly Pistachio, who I fell in love with when I visited Modesto. She wrote in my notebook, "Shelly loves you," and I was just so charmed. I had to go with them, but it was so hard to overlook one, Bernie in Inland Empire. One of the few mascots who speak. He doesn't speak English, but he does that like woo, woo, kind of whoops throughout the game. And Stryker with the Florida Fire Frogs, and Finley with the Clearwater Threshers, another two I love in that level, as well as Thunder with the Lake Elsinore Storm, who has always been really creative with what he does. The fact I left
Bolt
Thunder
from the Winston-Salem Dash, he's my favorite. No Bolt.
Yeah, Class A Advanced. Like
it's a loaded level.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from writing this, and it was one of the things I never thought to myself before this. Wow, Class A Advanced is like the most loaded in the mascot game. It really is. Class A Advanced, where all the best mascots are. Class A, I went with Fang of the Timber Rattlers. Again, a lot of it visual. I mean, he's a great mascot, but the fact that you have a venomous snake with like kind of scary teeth.
Actual fangs.
Yeah,
basically.
But he's still lovable. I love the kind of twist on that. Class A short season, I went with Williamsport. I've always loved the Williamsport Crosscutters, Boomer. A lot of that is because, I think he's in that Philadelphia or Philly fanatic tradition. Crosscutters are a Phillies affiliate of being something of indeterminate species and truly bizarre. His origin story really does involve like stumbling in from the woods, and he still has leaves on him from just kind of appearing at the ballpark. His eyes are just a total mess. I mean, he looks like one of the most questionable mascots, and I mean that in the best way, but like questionable where you might look at him and be like, what is going on?
He just looks like a Disney
dude?
reject. Like he was supposed to get his own special in the 60s, and then Walt decided against it. And now he wandered, and after that he wandered into the woods.
Yeah.
Wanders the purgatory of minor league baseball.
Yeah. I think technically he met the former mascot Rusty Roughcut in the woods because he was like a lumberjack. And somehow Rusty met Boomer and was kind of like, yo, I got this gig if you want it. And then he kind of stumbled in. And
So Rusty's still out there?
I don't know where Rusty went, but he left. Rusty could not be held down by any team. Rusty
He's just
Roughcut,
wandering
the
Pennsylvania landscape somewhere.
He is. If you've seen Rusty Roughcut out in the wild, please let me know.
Please call the Williamsport Crosscutters and report him.
Yeah, I'd like to report a missing mascot. Finally, I think my actual favorite mascot in all of minor league baseball is Roscoe the Rooster. We've talked about him before with the Princeton Rays. Roscoe, one, can flat out talk. You can just go up to him and speak with him. And that is just bizarre. There's actually a video interview in the story that I conducted with him when I visited Princeton in 2016. And outside of that, Roscoe competes on the local West Virginia wrestling circuit as a character. And he has like the chicken wing finishing move, and he like beats up the Cuban assassin, one of his enemies. And it is one of my like dreams to go to a grassroots low level wrestling match somewhere in West Virginia and see the mascot for an Appy League team who can talk, like beating dudes up in the ring. I just that's peak America right there. That's what makes me love living here. Roscoe the Rooster.
Ben, what's coming up in this series? I know there is a new edition coming. Is that tomorrow? We're recording this on Wednesday. When's the next one coming out?
Yeah, it's tomorrow, the same day this podcast drops, and that's going to be Best Ballpark Views. I started the series with Best Ballparks, and that obviously has a wide range of criteria, but I just isolated it all to the view. And spoiler alert, all the ones I chose, or none of those are ones I chose as my overall favorites in the level. But obviously, there's a lot of great views in minor league baseball. So I think that story will, do well, and hopefully, as all these stories have done, spark some debate And after that, I think I'm going to do like my favorite ballpark characters, just whether they're fans or team employees or something like that. Maybe just a ballpark quirks, which is even more hard to pin down. But that's about it. But this has been good.
It's a strong list that you got going so far.
It's been good to do this. And as you guys know, like October and November are some of the, outside of the logo stuff, some of the hardest months just for like standalone feature stories. So it has been nice to look back on my travels and have good material to write about during these lean times.
And I feel like mascots is where you got the most, I won't say vitriol, just reaction.
Yeah, I think I got overall more reaction on ballparks, but
really?
Most vitriol,
was from
the mascots, because it is really hard to pin down, and like everyone's criteria is different. And I did have some stunning omissions when I was reading it on the day after I wrote it. I was arguing with myself. I was like, how did you do that? I was like leaving my myself angry Twitter comments on my burner account, like via my. I just
And I've just got one theory as to why Class A Advance might be so loaded for you. And I just want to bounce this off of you while we're talking about this. Class A Advance is kind of that level, that first level where like AA, you feel like they are close to the majors. We talk to prospects about that all the time. AAA, they are close to the majors. That is part of the draw of going to see it, is seeing guys that legitimately will probably be in the majors soon. Class A Advance is that first level where you're going to have to wait a while. Do you feel like that causes teams to be a little bit more outlandish, a little bit riskier in trying to get some of these other things, like whether it's food or whether it's different mascots, or is it more just happenstance?
I don't know. I like that theory. I think I'd go with happenstance overall, but we'll have to look into that and develop a wide-ranging theory and justify it and have it peer-reviewed. But I think you may be onto something.
Right. You just got to be riskier at Class A Advance to get people to show up. You got to have a little bit more of the wackier mascots and stuff like that. But that's just an idea.
Interesting theory. Benjamin Hill is on
you've been chewing on that one, Tyler.
I was thinking about it. Very, very close inspection of that idea. Benjamin Hill's on Twitter. He is at Ben's Biz there, and the blog is bensbiz.mlblogs.com. You can check out the stories at milb.com. And Ben, thanks, man. We'll continue to debate all of this going forward, and I'm sure there will be a lot more.
Yeah, looking forward to it, and it's great to have you guys both back where you belong, speaking with one another on the podcast. And Sam, it's great to have you, of course, sitting to my right.
Yeah, and happy belated birthday, Ben.
Oh wow!
We went this whole time. I wanted you on the edge of your seat, wondering if we were going to mention your birthday.
To be honest, I forgot.
It happened yesterday.
Well, I didn't forget my birthday, but I forgot in this conversation. But yes, Tuesday was my birthday, election day. It was my own personal midterms, and
it was the midterms of your life.
Yeah, and so hit me up on Twitter and say happy birthday and tell me how much I mean to you, because
it's still your birthday.
It's still my birth week, exactly.
Happy birthday at Ben's Biz. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Wrapping up this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, you can find Sam on Twitter. He's at Sam Dykstra, MILB. I am at Tyler Mon. Benjamin Hill is at Ben's Biz. And Minor League Baseball is at MILB. And Buddy Reed is at Buddy Loco 23. You can catch up with the Padres number 13 prospect there as well. Bounce all of your hockey-related questions off of Buddy Reed. And I want to see a showdown now between Buddy Reed and Tom Glavine.
See, I want to see
Tom Glavine's like a little old now, but maybe like in a video game sense, 22-year-old Tom Glavine, 22-year-old Buddy Reed on the ice. Go at it.
See, I want to see one between him and who was it? Eddie Alvarez?
Oh, yeah. Eddie Alvarez, the White Sox prospect and former speed skating silver medalist.
Right. Buddy brought up the idea of, speed skaters are different than hockey skaters and how that speed translates. I would love to see them go at it on land and on ice.
Yeah. Let's set that up.
I would love to do that. We'll have to tease that out when the podcast comes out.
No.
We'll tweet at both of them and see what they're up to.
It's like Seabiscuit War Admiral, not Secretary. I just threw out another horse's name. It wasn't Seabiscuit Secretariat. But yeah, it'd be like the race of the century.
Who did Seabiscuit run against? Wasn't it War Admiral?
Yeah, it was War Admiral. But initially I said Secretariat. And it was
okay.
Yeah. Also,
Seabiscuit. We don't talk about Seabiscuit enough.
No, we don't. We should have more Seabiscuit discussion on this show.
Not on this podcast in general.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Eddie Alvarez was a fun story. I got to write his story up. Was that just at the beginning of this year? Good Lord, it was. That was prior to the Olympic Games this year, which feels like it was 19 years ago. But that was back in February. Eddie Alvarez this year reached the AAA Charlotte Knights and batted .253 with a .783 OPS. But he was a fun story to write earlier on this year if you want to read about another guy who did some tremendous work on ice. The athleticism of some of these dudes just absolutely blows my mind. It's incredible. Yeah. So we'll see what we can get lined up between Eddie Alvarez and Buddy Reed. It could be possible. Eddie Alvarez is a Miami guy. Buddy Reed went to Florida. It's the same state. I know they're not super close, but maybe we put something together.
And Lord knows when we think about races on ice, we think about the sunshine.
Think of Florida.
Yeah.
All right, that'll do it for this week's episode. The Arizona Fall League is coming to its end here shortly. Next week, things wrap up in the AFL, which seems so early, but we were talking a minute ago. I think it's because Thanksgiving is really early this year, and the AFL always wraps up the week before Thanksgiving.
That could be it. But, the championship game is going to be held in Scottsdale Stadium on the 17th. So a week from this weekend, the Fall League will be over. And then what will we talk about then? We'll find out. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see after that.
We'll see. We'll figure something out. He's Sam Dykstra. I'm Tyler Mullen. We'll talk to you next week.